What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Deceptilab. And also, welcome back to my Art of War series. For those of you who've been following for a while, you know that I've talked about different war tactics that you can use to help you out as you try to progress in your alliance wars. So, today's topic, we're actually going to talk about a tactic that I had abandoned for a little bit, but I've recently got back to due to some help from some of my mentors. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to talk about the Blot and Rook walk. So let me get everything set up. We'll be right back. All right, guys, and welcome back. And like I said, today I just want to talk about the Blot walk a little bit. Obviously, the Autobot counterpart is Rook. So if any of you Autobots are following along, um, we're focusing this strategy around popping outposts using Blot or Rook. So I want to give you a little background on how I got to this point to trying to run the block walk again. Now, it's been a great tactic that many good players have been using for years, but I kind of abandoned it. I was saying that I was losing block a lot of times, and we'll talk about that. We'll actually talk about each one of the characters in my war team individually. But just know, and I want to say this up front, that just because you don't have these specific characters, think about some of the qualities that each one of them possess, so that you can try to see how you can try to fit different bots into your team. So a couple of times I'll label some alternatives, but just keep that in mind. So let's go take a look at each one of the bots individually, and we'll see what purpose they play in the team. So the first bot I want to talk about in this war team is going to be the star of the show himself, and that's going to be Blot. Like I said, Rook for you guys on the Autobot side. And long story short, we want to use him for his ability, the explosive decoy, which in most cases you're using as a means to pop outposts. Now with Blot, I've actually put the Micronus core on him, um, which can be a little bit problematic. We'll talk about that when we actually look at him on the battlefield. But just because he has a tendency to walk away from the group, so we'll talk about how to manage that as well. My combat bot choice is going to be Fangtron, and I'm using him to get an additional, just to get an additional decoy to come out there and pop outpost spots. So let's take a look at him on the battlefield and see what exactly is going to be so special about Blot. All right, and welcome to the battlefield, and I'm on the test server. So the key that you want to look at with Blot is you want to try to deploy him far back on the pad, but you want to put him in position where Fangtron and and for the Autobots, for you guys, that's Children, that he can get up there and pop an outpost. So right here, I'm going to choose this one on the right hand side. I'm going to drop Blot in the back. And the key here is you want to delay. You want to make sure that you get that hollow out first. So you want to delay using your actual abilities. Now, in this case, the next closest outpost is kind of far away. So I want to give him an opportunity to actually move forward first after I figure out who was in the outpost. So I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to wait. And Fangtron is going to pop that outpost. Now, keep in mind, he's going to target whatever's closest. And so here, what I'm looking to do is to drop my team in along with them. Now, in this case, I got a Twin Twist up there. And when you look back around, I don't have any FFDs. So part of the purpose of me having Nemesis Prime, or for you Autobots, uh, Hot Rod, is for protection. So now I've got I've got that Twin Twist held up, and as I advance to the next layer, I'm able to drop Blot, his ability to both pop the Combiner and the next outpost bot. So we'll jump out of here and we'll talk about the rest of the team for a moment. All right, moving on to the next bot, I want to talk about Bludgeon. Um, Keep in mind, you don't have to use Bludgeon. You can kind of fill this role with different rush in tanks. I know a lot of people are using Headstrong and Pipes. That's perfectly okay. For me, I didn't chase that batch. And so when I did go through a batch and get the rush in tank that I am using on my war team, I decided to use Bludgeon. For you Autobots, that's Ironhide. So his role here is actually kind of multi-purpose. He's got a great ability with his electromagnetic charge, and since they did the Warrior buff, Space Ape did that a few months back, and that plus 80 max health boost allows him to just be a little bit stronger as a tank. He's a relatively low cost at 3.2, 3 plus 2, excuse me, and I can also use him late in battles to if I lose a Titan battle, which in most cases I do, because one of the things that when I was getting advice about my team, one of the things we started talking about was using the combiner ability on the base, and then you can use Bludgeon or you can use Nemesis Prime to off to the right hand side to try to protect your team. So that's what Bludgeon is going to be here for, and he's also going to have that Leech Maximal core, which is going to allow us to hack other bots. It's really, really helpful for if you have bots that have shorter abilities on the as far as your outpost bots that you're fighting. They have shorter abilities. They'll get hacked instantly, and they make them less of a threat. Then they're not attacking you. They're attacking the base. So I added that core to it as well. Plus, it keeps him from being hacked. So if you're fighting against a defensive leech core, you in a lot of cases you're able to rush him ahead to allow you to just have some kind of safety net. Now, in this case, I use pterodactyl just to just to help with the health. I mean, I think it will stack up pretty well with the ability itself, just to kind of keep him healthier and to add a slight damage and rejuvenation boost. All right, let's move on to Nemesis Prime. Okay, guys, so the next bot I want to talk about is Nemesis Prime. And so I have been using him on my war teams for quite a while. I went and actually pursued him uh, when new bots were coming out in new batches. I actually went back to go pursue him. I think he was batch one, I believe. So yeah, definitely good for protection. I know lately a lot of people have been saying with it, his health is not where they want it to be, but he does decent damage. I like to use the Prime Core, along with Fracus just to kind of boost the damage even further, and also give him a little bit of healing just to kind of help with his health not being quite as high. But then you always have the option uh, of using his shield as from his special ability as a way to protect yourself. Now, one of the things I started discussing when I was getting advice on my team is that they say, hey, Freeze, don't just come out spamming Nemesis Prime ability. This should be a last second resort type thing that you use to try to protect yourself. But as you saw earlier, sometimes this sometimes it's necessary to use when you see like a bot like Twin Twist come out, then you are able to give your bot protection, kind of keep somebody held up in one spot. And obviously, like if you guys have been watching my streams, I use them on defense, but right now we're focusing on the offensive part. So really great addition to the team. I was actually given three options on how to build my team as something to test out to see what I would feel comfortable with. And this one was the only one that had Nemesis Prime in it. And so naturally, I felt more comfortable about it. And let's go on and we'll talk about the rest of the bots on the team. The next bot I want to talk about is Acid Storm. For you, those of you on the Autobot side, that'd be Slingshot. And simply put, this bot I feel like is really awesome. I think he does really good damage. But the key here is the ability. And the ability is because in the acid meta, when you got to take out those large healing clusters, um, you need some form of acid in most cases to try to make that a little bit more manageable. And so his ability is 15 seconds long. It combos with fire. So one of the things that I did is I added Fire Line as a combat bot, and then I added the Alchemist Prime Core, which pairs really well with any types of AOE abilities. So that'll help maintain his health. Now his range does get incredibly short when you go use Fireline. That was a risk that I was concerned about when I was advised about this team. But because of the amount of time that you spend using his ability and how cheap the ability cost is, it works out well because the rest of the team, the, especially your more heavier bots, your warrior class bots, your heavy special class bots will protect him in a situation like this. But the key here is just looking at having some kind of ranged acid bot. Obviously, an acid storm and slingshot being one of the better ones to use in those situations. So let's move on to the next bot. The next bot on my team is Brawl. And for you guys on the Autobot side, that'll be Prowl. And a couple of key things here to look at is his ability. So his ability on its own, it's okay. I mean, right here I got him at level 67, so and then level 11 for the ability, and so that's giving you 9,185 damage over a large area. Now for him, you're gonna have to use his G1 core, and the purpose here so that you can pair it with any acid attack, so that you can get the 20% boost for using fire. And the other part of this is you want to have somewhat of a ranged attack. Now for me, this is this is the gunner that I have that's going to be able to do fire. If you have better options, if you have, say, if you got a trigger happy, or if you're an Autobot and you got a six gun, um, and it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but you're getting a little bit more damage out of that. So if you have those options, I say use those options as well. The point that we're looking at is to have some type of fire-based attack, and keep in mind that with Brawl, the 9,100 something points that I was just talking about damage-wise for the ability is actually the result of your G1 Brawl boost, carrying your special ability damage and increasing it by 15.5%. So for me, this is the option that I had. I actually decided to use the 5-star fracas on him, which honestly, in most cases, I'm kind of averse to using uh, a bot like fracas. I prefer to use them on my air class bot. So this one was a really difficult change for me. But the focus here is on the damage, and the focus here is on the healing. And so it made it kind of balanced as in regards to the team as far as damage goes. All right, so let's see who we got next in our war team lineup. Now, this bot I had actually removed from my war team, and I had retired him. It wasn't immediately. Part of it was like the FFDs, but now that we have the Ray blocker cores, and those have become more common on the front half of bases, uh, it's safe to bring Cutthroat back, and for the Autobots, for you guys that's tracks. Long story short, this bot is he's a great, probably one of the best 4 stars in the game. His ability, that smoke bomb, was blocking all of that damage for you. And I used the Quintus Prime Core on him. And you guys that have been watching me for a while, you know that you know the combo that I use. I combo him up with Singe, and it trips me out a lot of times because most of the people say Singe, he sucks, and it's primarily because of the pathing. But one of the bots that works really, really well with him is Cutthroat. So when I was advised about how to put this team together, I was actually advised to use a ranged bot. And I said, well, I've got like a level 9. And this is my test account, so I got level 10 up here, but I got like level 9 Singe on my live account. And I said, well, I'm going to use him because I know for a fact I'm comfortable and I know that it works. And then you get a little bit of additional wall damage as well to top that off. and put some just under 1,000, which will probably be once I get him to level 70, probably be over 1,000. Um, but his purpose is simply for protection for your team, and we'll actually show that in here in a little bit. Now, Blastoff is on my team for me because one of the bots I have is one of the bots I have at a higher level. And you got a lot of different options on how you can load them out. For me, I use the G1 Blastoff core just so I can add in additional damage when I'm going to do a lot of different things. For my primary reason for him, I use him as a means to um, pop some of the key build bots that I might be dealing with. In this case, if I see a FFD build bot, then I'll go ahead and pop him with Blast Off. But the real purpose here is to help me with the shield generator cluster. A lot of times I'll combine him with like Acid Storm, just when I'm trying to attack these things at range. I used a 3-star fracas on him. You got a lot of other different options. You can use Crater Maker. You can use just any ranged combat in those cases. But really, he's just at this point, I'm kind of using him there for support. As a lot of these air class bots up there, the older ones can't one shot at anything. So you have to get strategic on how you want to combo. But like when I use him with Acid Storm, he can take out the shield generator when combined together with those two abilities. And once you get the acid down, you can actually use them to take out some of your key structures, your MDS, for example, your shock towers, so on and so forth. Finally, I've got my healer on my team. So for me right now, the highest level one that I have is Hook. I'm using them with the Alpha Trion core so that I'm able to just continue to regenerate ability points. Now, right now, I have SG Ravage in that spot. I'm probably not going to keep him there, but the goal here is I actually want to have. I can go a couple different directions here, so it's not really locked in, but you can just always try to go ask yourself a healing combat. Um, that's always an option. But the advice that I was given was to use a combat. Growl, for example, is a really, really good option just because, even on offense, you're going to get a little bit of protection from him when he changes into his alternate mode and is invulnerable for a time period. Or even if you have a really good combat, such as Groundhog, Big Daddy, anything like that, then you're able to go use that on your healer. And because there's so much individual healing on your team, uh, the players that I was talking to, they're less inclined to use the healing type combats, but you do have those options. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is running Growl in that spot. So I'll actually just go ahead and load him up now. So let's take a look at this team in action and see how it looks when you put it all together. All right, so let's put it all together and see what we need to do to win in some of these Prime League War bases. So I picked out one of my buddies on playtest, and I'm going to do a little bit of scouting. So the first thing that I noticed is we already discovered the Twin Twist is going to be here in this outpost. So, and we already talked about how we're going to use Blot with Fangtron to pop that outpost. Um, use Nemesis Prime to kind of back him up in that particular case. So then I start looking at build bots. And so here I see that there are a couple of ray blockers. So I'm probably going to end up targeting the far ray blocker. Just when you look at its range, I'll probably wind up hitting it with Blast Off. I might let this one get taken out naturally, but I also want to be careful that I've got some target protocols that it might go after my gunner and healer. And then as we path upwards, you're going to go have to take out that Leech Maximal Core. You can use that with Acid Storm, Blast Off, and depending on how close you get in range, possibly Brawl. And then I also got Galvatronus in here as my combiner to kind of back me up. Now we already saw how the pathing was going to take me to pop this outpost bot and the combiner. So let's go take a look at it all together. So we'll start off with Blot there. And like I said, we're just gonna wait. That's not a motion sensing mine there. Looks like that might be a flare mine. So we're just gonna wait, and that'll allow us to, as he walks forward, to kind of run that ability. Now, as I get ready, I'm gonna go ahead and drop Nemesis, knowing that there's no FFDs, and that'll protect Blot from Twin Twist. I'll drop the rest of the team in, and I am free to go and drop Cutthroat. So I'm gonna go ahead and take some of the icons off. Now, with Blot having that Micronus core, he's gonna resume healing. Right now, I'm not healing as much, so I want to make sure I take out start taking out those ray blockers, and I also want to pop that final, or those top two, the outpost and the combiner outpost that's showing immediately after here. So we'll get that pop, and I'll get my combiner ready to go, so that after that outpost combiner ability hits, and which is doing right now, that I don't have to let my team get hacked. So with that, I'm going to start attacking the shielded cluster, and my Titan ability is now ready, and I'm going to start going up to the shielded cluster. I've already got rid of the Liege Maximo, and so let's see if I can get the actual shield down. And I don't get the shield down this time, but nothing to panic about, because I got the mouth. I've got the effect of my Galvatronus after death effect, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and run my Acid Storm. Now that everything's covered in acid, I can run the G1 core of Brawl, and the team's gonna continue pathing upward. So in this case, I pathed right past a lot of the defenses on the bottom. I'll throw down my Cutthroat Smoke. Not sure who's in the outpost here. Looks like it's Dino. So even though he gets you held up, my team is doing pretty good health-wise, and I can just continue to use my Titan attacks on the base, make sure I'm not taking a lot of damage. Blast off wanders off, so if I want to be safe, I can just use Nemesis Prime on him to make sure he's healthy while he's going down there wandering. And it's a good thing I did, because Laser Optimus popped out, but the rest of the team passed forward. So like I said, Nemesis Prime just becomes a backup plan for if you have a bot wander pathing wise. Let's take a look at this block walk on another base, see how it turns out. All right, so in this case, uh, the outposts are a little bit more split. So not sure who's in this outpost yet, but I'm going to probably attack that from the right hand side. That'll make it a little bit easier for me to go do my bludgeon rush if I wind up being attacked by the Titan late in the battle. I also want to go after this Megatronus core, which right now is on that shock tower, so it's one of the stronger defenses um, in terms of health. So I want to make sure that I'm able to get that out of the way quickly. So I want to start off on the right from that purpose. What I imagine is going to happen is I'm going to path up a little bit. I'll use another Blot Hollow to pop this Combiner outpost. Now, they've strategically placed theirs a little bit. I'm probably going to have to wait for these guys late to pop those. I imagine at least one of those is probably going to be Twin Twist, just out of anticipation. So I'll have to keep my Nemesis Prime abilities low. But looking down at the bottom half, I should be able to deal with that relatively easily. The only thing they were really focused on is this build bot right here, not shocking anybody. I mean, not being hacked. So that's not a concern for me. But when I get on the back half, I am going to be concerned about those ray blockers for health purposes. And of course, there goes your shielded cluster, which has your Liege Maximo on an auto cannon, which so for me, one of the big things that I look at when placing my leech maximum cool is making sure that it's under the shield, and so I have to take that out. I'll probably use Acid Storm there. So let's take a look at it in battle and see how it goes. Actually, I just stuck the wrong team in there. So let me go back and get the correct team. All right, so I'm back with the correct team, the Blot team. I'm gonna start right over here on the outside, and I'm going to, before I do anything, I'm gonna let that Fangtron come out, find out who's in that outpost. Now, if you are in a war and somebody's already gone before you, then obviously you are able to take a look at that through replays, and it looks like that is Rhinox is coming out of here. Decent outpost spot, but not really a threat for me in this situation. I'm going to come in and get that Cutthroat smoke down, just so I'm not taking a lot of damage from the Megatron's core. I'm also going to start to do a range check to see how close I need to get up to the next level for that that S-Gen cluster. Right now, I'm just out of reach, and that's okay because I want to, as you saw in my last replay, I was actually able to take it out with the combiner. But one thing I usually do before I put out the combiner in a lot of cases is I will go ahead and throw down acid before I drop the combiner. So I'm going to wait, but I am going to go ahead and use Blot to pop that combiner. And then I'm also going to, as he comes out, I'm going to throw down that acid onto the shield generator. And I'm going to do that now before the hack comes. Now, the team's going to start pathing upward because they see the combiner. And so for me now, I've got some opportunities to take out the shield generator cluster. My Titan ability is ready. So I'm going to use Galvatronus' ability in conjunction with that Titan ability to go after that cluster. And I'm actually able to take a good chunk of the cluster out. I got that leads maximal cool. I got the generator itself. I got both MDS. And so my priority when I get back on is going to be to make sure that I get down these build bots. So now I've got all 40 of my ability points. I'm going to use Blot again to outpost pop. And I'm also going to take Bludgeon up there to the top just to make sure for protection purposes. Right, in this case, I've got Swoop flying around. And I'm going to start picking off build bots. I got plenty of ability points. And let me take a look and see. Yeah, I got plenty of ability points. Let's see. Some of my air class bots have run off. I'm going to hold on using Nemesis ability for right now. I actually use his ability on my healer since he's being attacked by Swoop. But most of the team, the majority of the team paths to the top. Cutthroat's down there taking some damage from LOP as he ran off. But the majority of the team path upward, so no worries. And down comes the HQ. All right, let's go back to the Deceptilab and let's do a summary of what we talked about. All right, guys, and welcome back to the Deceptilab. And yeah, so just a couple of small things to think about. Like I said, if you got Blot, Rook, and you got like a Fangtron or Children, but this is the way to go. It's got a lot of versatility and how you can approach just different wars. Every now and again, I'll have some oddball pitfalls, some variables that I'll change. When I go through in a sackbot. I plan on doing another Art of War video to talk about those things. But just keep in mind, and I always tell people this when I advise them, don't feel like you have to use the exact same bots that I use. If you got better alternatives to do a similar job, make sure that you use those. As always, if you ever need any advice, hit me up. My Discord link is in the description of all of my videos, and yeah, we'll get you right. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you during my live stream, which is every week at Wednesday at 6, and I will also see you on the battlefield. Freezius out.